Edge, Season 8, Episode 16. In this week's episode, we'll be discussing returning author Gayleen Froese's upcoming novel. Ta-da! It's up for pre-order! Then we'll be reviewing Only Murders in the Building. That's right, we finally got to the series. So stick around. We'll break this up into chapters for you so you can hop to your favorite part. But now, on to our interview. Gayleen Froese is an LGBTQ writer of detective fiction living in Edmonton, Canada. She has appeared on Canadian Learning Television's A Total Write-Off, won the second season of the 3-day novel contest on BookTelevision, and as a singer-songwriter showcased at festivals across Canada. She has worked as a radio writer and talk show host, an advertising creative director, and a communications officer. A past resident of Saskatoon, Toronto, and northern Saskatchewan, Gayleen now lives in Edmonton with novelist Laird Ryan States in a home that includes dogs, geckos, snakes, monitor lizards, and Marlo the tegu. When not writing, she can be found kayaking, photographing unsuspecting wildlife, and playing cooperative board games, viciously competitive card games, and tabletop RPGs. Gayleen, welcome back.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So, for folks who didn't hear your first interview, just give us a real quick...
Which was a literal fireside chat.
It was great.
It was a literal fireside chat.
It was great. Let's give folks, though, a real quick how you became a creative person, because I love the way you set up your stories, and then an hour later your mom's like, okay, you're done.
Yeah. I had talked about how when I was a little kid, like, I would get all of my little plastic animals and my little dolls and, you know, my big red barn that my dad built me and whatever else, you know, houses, cardboard boxes that were now houses, like whatever it was. And I would set up this whole world of things because I was going to tell a story, but I needed the set and the props and the actors and the whole thing. And I'd have the whole thing set up. And then my mom would come downstairs and be like, okay, it's supper. And I'd be like, but I haven't started playing yet. Like, you don't get how this works.
She just didn't get production ethics, you know.
Right?
Right? I know. Like, look, studio time is money. You do everything ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So, speaking of doing things ahead of time, let's talk about Ben Ames, where he's been. So when we jump into The Man Who Lost His Pen, people know what they're walking into.
Yeah. So in the first book, The Girl Whose Luck Ran Out, Ben Ames is a detective in Calgary. He used to work for the police and found that wasn't for him. So he has his own agency now. And back in university, he dated a guy named Jesse Sarek, who went on to become a rock star named Jack Lowe, who is very well known in Canada and, you know, well known to people who like his kind of music throughout the rest of the world. And they haven't spoken in 7 years. The start of the book, Ben has just taken on a new case, and then he gets a text from Jesse, who is coming through town on tour, wants to meet. They meet up. Turns out Jesse has pneumonia and plans to go on stage that night. And Ben's like, well, you know, I haven't talked to you in 7 years and I'm mad as hell about all of it, but still, I can't let you die. So he disabuses him with that notion. Jesse comes and stays in his house, cancels the last 2 tour dates, and then just winds up tagging along in the case because Jess is like that. This is Nero.
Oh, hello.
But about
He's named Nero Wolf, so.
Let me guess, that's the it's breakfast time nuzzle.
Yeah, my dogs have not been fed. They'll be fed after this, so. You just
Nice.
have to, I know you'll starve to actual death before then, but you'll be all right.
So the other element of the novels is Jesse jumped in to help with the investigation.
Yeah, he did. Jesse loves jumping into things. There's nothing Jesse feels he can't do.
Nice.
So.
So on to The Man Who Lost His Pen. They are together. It is deep, dark winter.
Yep.
You want to tell us more?
Yeah,
I don't want to spoil it. So
one of you gets that and one of you doesn't. Yeah, Calgary's in the deep freeze. So it's happening in downtown Calgary. They're in a theater, and inside the theater, it's nice and warm, but outside the theater, it is, I can't remember what I said it went down to, but with wind chills, probably somewhere in the high 50s, like low 50s, 52, maybe with wind chill Celsius. For Americans, Celsius and Fahrenheit scales line up around minus 40. So minus 50 would be about the same for you. The scales diverge after that, but you know. So cold, basically.
yeah, deadly cold.
Cold as hell. So yeah, it's interesting because it's one of those cases where, you know, the police show up and they're like, nobody go anywhere. And everyone's like, we can't. Like, we wouldn't. It's terrible out there. But it's also, I think, probably going to be interesting for readers because the fact is that when we live in these cities that get that cold, life doesn't stop. like the show literally goes on. They're at a charity event and with a bunch of other musicians and comics doing this show, and there's an audience there. People showed up for the show, and there are fans outside eventually because they've got an A-lister in the building. And there's media, like people are literally outside running back and forth from their running cars to warm up. The life goes on. It just goes on in a way that feels like you're on Mars. You have to suit up to go outside, and the outside atmosphere is not supportive of human life. So,
Mm-hmm. And as a writer, it helps you keep your cast together.
it sure does. Yeah. There are two guys in the book, spoiler, that nip out for smoke breaks, but that's a case of, putting on their coats and everything and opening the door a crack, leaning out, smoking and coming back in. And otherwise, yeah, they don't want to go anywhere.
Right. Again, if I spoil something, let me know and we'll delete it. But the A-lister who shows up is not a friend of Jesse's.
No, it is in fact a guy that Jesse used to fake date. He was, for publicity purposes, Jess talks about it in the first book, where his label and management said, we need you to be a little more family-friendly gay. And what's that? Well, we need you to have a regular boyfriend because you're a sybarite. And we need you to have shots in a magazine of you preparing for Thanksgiving dinner or whatever it is, that kind of thing. So, and we also want you to have a little more presence. So we're going to hook you up with an A-lister who's more famous than you are. And the other thing is the A-lister wanted to look a little edgier. So hooking him up with, this known drug fiend and whatever else you want to call Jess at the time was good for him. So the two of them pretended to date for a while, and it didn't end well because of something the A-lister did. So.
Does that come out in the second book?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's discussed several times.
All right. So again, to avoid spoilers, because it is up for pre-order, so it's not like people can quickly go read it after I say something stupid. What else would you like us to know about it?
Yeah.
I think it's a fun kind of proper whodunit. It's not exactly solvable. I should say that it's not like an Agatha Christie where you can technically solve it. Although I've read I think almost all of Agatha Christie's books, and the vast majority of them are not, towards Zero or Roger Ackroyd. They are mostly like, so-and-so was the actual, she wasn't who you thought she was at all. She was the, half sister of who's been living in New Zealand. Like, what the hell, Agatha Christie? No one was solving that. That's not fair. Like, this whole reputation you have for writing fair whodunits.
That's my favorite reason why I love Murder by Death as a film, because it lampoons every one of those mystery characters.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You introduce characters in the last 5 pages that were never in the book before.
Yeah, when people are like, you don't write fair, you don't know the tradition of whodunits if you think writing a fair whodunit is what it's all about. Let's move on from that, people. So yeah, it's but it is a whodunit in the sense that there's a lot of people who could have done it and a lot of motives, and you want to have I think in those cases you have to have a guy that's really hated. I act in murder mysteries for a little company here in town. We do improv murder mysteries for parties and that kind of thing. It's so fun. And yeah, and they're really good at writing those characters that, like, because they want to keep it light. Like, usually you're at a party or something, so when they kill somebody, they want everyone to not be sad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
see, I need to give you an option though. You need to do one of those parties, but have it drag, so all the women come as men and all the men go as women. It puts a whole new level to it, girl. I'm telling you.
It would. No,
all the men complain about everything hurting, and the women are the most comfortable people.
Why have I not done this before? Oh yeah, because honestly, one of the worst things about doing them is that, like, you have to, because they do a lot of they're all historical, or not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah,
so there's one in the 20s and one in the, and so, the guys, yeah, they have to get the right suit or whatever, but the women are like, okay, so the hair has to be like this, and my nails can't be this, they have to be that, and I have to, and you just, the heels, by the end of the night, you want to die.
You're all, I know why they murdered these heels.
Like I'm in a litter. Like, that's how this is going to go. Yeah. So yeah, I totally like your idea. I should float that to them. But yeah, so they had one character that was so odious that by the time we killed him, some guy at the back of the audience yelled, "If you hadn't done it, I would have done it myself."
Nice.
But that's what you want. Like, if it's a true villain in a whodunit, you want people going like, if only I could get my hands in there and do it myself.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
That's
he's that guy. So there's definitely a lot of people who would have done it.
nice.
And probably aren't sad about it. And you know, and then the police come and you have to choose between being like, how tragic, and yeah, man, somebody got to him before me. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
All right. Release date is mid-May.
yes, it is May 16th.
Perfect.
So that month, my publisher is releasing The Girl Whose Luck Ran Out as a mass market.
Ooh.
At the beginning of May, so May 2nd, and then May 16th, The Man Who Lost His Pen. So you can read The Girl Whose Luck Ran Out as a mass market if you like, and then you can move on to The Man Who Lost His Pen. And
Perfect.
I'm quite excited about the mass market because I'm old school mystery girl, as you can see. I've got like some very look, that's a very old copy of Fair de Lance.
Oh wow.
I don't have a first edition because I'm not a millionaire, but yeah, I've got some cool ones. So yeah, that's my thing. Like I read those books, and trade paperbacks can be beautiful. You know, they're lovely and big and everything, shiny. But the books that I scrounged used bookstores for, and you know, I'd go into a used bookstore in every new city, hoping to find those few books in a series that I didn't have.
Yep.
Those ones that just got my heart going, you know, those were mass markets. So seeing my own books like that was amazing.
I definitely get it. My husband did the same thing for me. My very first mystery that I ever read and was captured by was called Mystery of the Crimson Ghost by Phyllis A. Whitney, and she was actually a writer for adult novels and stuff, but she wrote this juvenile mystery, and he actually found me a mass paperback copy of it for a birthday present one year, and it's the coolest thing.
I know, they're so cute, and they fit so nicely in your hand. And,
I totally get it.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
yeah, I'm excited about that. And then trade and digital for The Man Who Lost His Pen to start, and then they'll go to. And The Girl Whose Luck Ran Out is also available in 2 other languages now. It's available in French and German. So
congratulations, that's fantastic.
Cool. Great.
Yeah, I love it. And it's funny they chose French and German because those are the 2 languages I have any hope in hell of reading myself. So.
Nice.
I am reading the French one, and my German is so bad now. It'll be like 3 words dictionary, but.
Well, you know, all you needed is a digital copy and give it to AI and say, read this back to me.
No.
It is funny, the French one. Like I've definitely found some spots where the translator didn't quite know what I meant and made their best guess, and that wasn't it. But it's been nothing so far that that derails the story. But it's interesting. Like you wonder now, as a person who reads books that have been translated from other languages, you know, what am I missing? What in this translation is maybe not right?
One of the best linguistics professors I ever had us comparing versions of the Bible in Koine Greek, which was the trade Greek of the time, Latin, early English, modern English, and Swedish.
Oh.
And the translations were so different in so many cases. It's astounding. Yeah. So like you said, catching those translations, but what am I missing in my translation? It's a thing. It's a solid, concern.
Well, and words also, so I'm Mennonite culturally. And so South Russian Mennonites speak something called Plattich, which is similar to German, but it's got a lot of differences, and it has a lot of words in it that, yeah, they mean what they mean, but they mean a whole lot more. And if you know the language, you know that. So I remember I used to go to the horse races. This is a very, very weird tangent, but we'll go with it. I used to go to the horse races with my family, and there was a thing that you didn't want to bet on a race that had a schemmel in it. What's a schemmel? Well, a schemmel is a gray horse.
Okay.
And so, sometimes my relatives, they would bid ahead of time because they would sit there with all the papers spread out on the table,
right?
And look at the things and then make their bids, and figure it all out. Whereas my mother would bet on the jockey with the silk, whose color she liked the best, and she usually came out ahead of the other people. But they would bet, and then the horses would come trotting out, and there's a schemmel in there. And the deal was that a schemmel would mess up your bet. So they wouldn't necessarily win, but like say you had like an exacta or something, they'd come in between your horses. So they would do something to make it, and Schemmels were just cursed. And I got curious later when I was taking German, like that's not the word for gray in German. So what does it mean? And eventually I got a Plaudish dictionary, which is a wild thing because the language used to be purely oral.
Okay.
And in the last 20 years or so, people have started making it into a written language. So I got my hands on this dictionary. I look up Schemmel, and it's like gray like mold, gray like a mouse.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the word has shade attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
But in a translation, do you know that, or do you translate it? How do you translate it?
Right. It's a
and then
cultural
thinking
thing.
about right, exactly. And then I thought about translating expressions, because it's not just like if someone says, "I'm going to blow this pop stand." That's okay. So you have to look at that and go, I need an equivalent expression. But I need to take into account, is the person who's saying this trapped in the 60s? So they would use another 60s expression, or are they young and using it ironically, or how old is the expression, who's the person using it, how are they using it, and then what fits. And I think that's especially hard in French because French really has a relatively small vocabulary.
Yeah, it's
to English,
one of the strongest prescriptive languages out there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So yeah, I respect the work so much of the translators because it is hard. I've got a friend who has a master's in French from Queens. She can't work as a translator. She's failed the test every time. And it's because she can't find those equivalencies.
Wow. Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. I could talk about language my degree was linguistics, so I could talk about language all day.
You should look into Plowditch. It's very interesting.
I am going to, now that you've said that. I had not heard of it before, to be perfectly honest.
My question for you is take a look at it and then tell me if you think it's like a Creole.
Okay.
Okay.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
All right, so Man Who Lost His Pen, May 16th. Do you have anything else coming up you want to share?
In October, I have a book coming out called Lightning Strike Blues that is not in the Ben Ames series. It's about a kid named Gabe from North Battleford, Saskatchewan, who accidentally comes out to his redneck brother and gets superpowers on the same night, and then his life gets weirder from there.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, these kids, Gabe and his pals, are a little rough around the edges, or sketchy, as Gabe always describes them. And I think it's really fun because you tend to see superheroes come from two backgrounds. I would say you've either got your Bruce Waynes, your millionaires building themselves power suits, your Iron Mans, or you've got poor but honest, like 70s Marvel, your poor but honest. Gabe's poor and sketchy, like my joke elevator pitch is X-Men meets Trailer Park Boys.
Is it pitched young adult?
So that's fun. I actually was going back and forth with the publisher in Toronto for a while, and they ultimately passed. But they said to me, "You really can't do YA on this."
Really?
And to use a Trailer Park Boys reference, it's because if they can't smoke and swear, they're fucked.
Oh.
These characters, yeah, they are exactly sketchy. They do stuff that people would clutch their pearls at. And there is this weird idea that teenagers don't know those bad words and have never seen a dragon.
I mean, I've read YA novels where it's just 2 clicks shy of finger banging. I'm like,
right?
What? Yeah. I'm like, these kids aren't that, whitewashed virgin, oh my God, I don't get it. I don't get how that, and of course, I guess nowadays with a lot of the book banning fervor that's going on, so I guess it's just more sensitive.
Maybe it's that, I don't know. But yeah, I wasn't that naive and I didn't have the internet as a teenager. So right. I can only imagine where they're at these days.
Right.
Yep.
And I respect it. I don't want to talk to them like they don't know things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they finally said, yeah, you want to go new adult, whatever that is meant to mean, or just adult, just write the book and
right. All right.
Yeah. So emphatically, specifically not YA, although teenagers welcome.
Cool. Do you have any appearances or anything on the docket for Man Who Lost His Pen yet? I know it's kind of early still.
Not yet. My roommate has a book coming out called Somebody Else's Story in sometime this summer. I can't remember what his date was, but we thought we would do something together.
Cool.
'Cause
So
that'd be more fun.
which social is the best for people to catch up with those updates and see the announcements?
I have a Facebook page, and that's my main. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Tumblr. We are collectively, my roommate and I, on TikTok and Twitter under House of Author, the House of Author, because there's another House of Author apparently. So yeah, because there's two of us living in the same house, we thought we would just sort of collectively. I don't know, social. You know what it is. You have to feed the beast,
Mm-hmm.
and we thought it would be easier feeding that beast. I don't know if you can hear that growling as we talk about this. Apparently my two big dogs are having a play fight. But yeah, and so to have enough content to keep things fresh and whatever, we thought it's better to just team up. And so
I like that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That works.
Go ahead.
And I have a fun story about the cover for The Man Who Lost His Pen, which I love now. Like I'm absolutely stoked about it. And I'm so pleased with myself for that.
I was noticing
subtitles.
that.
Everybody freeze.
Like, never mind the novel, but check out the tagline. It's pretty good.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so when I initially got the first proof back from the designer, it was the middle of a forest. Like not even a road, I know. And it's set downtown Calgary, which is a city of 1 million people.
Primarily in the theater. Like it.
Right. So I was like, what? And so I sent the cover to one of my friends who had sort of baited the book. And I said, I don't think that the designer read the brief. And she came back with, but what if they did? And I was like, oh God, no. What if they did read the brief? Because I thought like the book, everything is so cold and, like maybe they can't imagine a world in which there'd be a city of 1 million people where it gets to be minus 50. Like that's clearly madness. So this must be the middle of the woods somewhere. And also it's Alberta. So if you've seen, I don't know, The Revenant or Brokeback Mountain or I guess The Last of Us now, like, what's Alberta but a bunch of woods and snow, like, clearly. So I was like, what to do? And I sent the designer, I said, like, I love the colors, it, the look and feels great. And just a link to Calgary's Wikipedia page. And then the designer came back with this. So
Nice. Very nice.
But I laughed pretty hard once I realized what had actually happened there.
Yeah. I mean, I live in Wisconsin. People had the same thing. We either are pegged as wearing cheese on our heads or a farm field.
Yeah. Like, don't you guys have like a weirdly huge water park? Is that you?
Yeah. I think nations, at least the U.S. is largest, or it was for a while anyway. Yeah.
I want to go.
It's got its perks. It's really big. I mean, it's packed. You have to like crowds.
Oh yeah, I don't love crowds.
That's just it. Because our summer season is this long. When it's summer, it's packed. But we also
it's like how when I go to Jasper, I always shoulder season.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Yep.
Because
near where I live, there's also a resort that for a while claimed the largest indoor water park. I don't know if that is still the case or not. I haven't checked in a while.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't. Whatever. We've got the West Edmonton Mall, so we have that huge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. The last time I was there, I was up on the water slides and I looked around and no one had dusted any of the pipes in several centuries. And I was like, does this speak to the water and everything else as well? Or is it just the pipes? Like, how should I, so I haven't been back, but, I'm too picky. But yes, an outdoor water park sounds lovely.
All right. So any final words of wisdom?
Wisdom? No, not at this hour. No.
Fair.
And not before the dog's being fed.
No. Hey, Archie, you want to come over here? Oh, no, he doesn't. Okay, well, the hell with me.
All right, folks, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to Gayleen Froese for coming back and talking with us and for sharing her book announcement with us. Thank you, Gayleen, so much.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always fantastic to talk to you guys.
Yay. All right, we
love it too.
We at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about these artists, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Now, on to our review. Being there. review time.
It's review time. We should come up with a theme song. Well, actually, yeah, I have a theme song, but I mean, we should find an old 50s kind of. Hey, peeps.
So we finally made it to Only Murders in the Building, seasons 1 and 2. Three
Yeah, I
strangers
finally
bonded by their
wrestled
love.
Vance to the ground to do it.
Three strangers bonded by their love of true crime podcasts record their own to accompany an investigation of murders in their building in the Upper West Side of New York.
Mm-hmm. See, okay, I'm going to jump in here real quick and just say, when I had issues with Brooklyn Nine-Nine that I could only do its type of humor in batches, like little scoops, Only Murders in the Building is the type of American comedy that I can do in a binge form because of the way it's structured and the way that it's built on characters. They're both built on characters, but it's the approach of how they do it. And the subject matters are completely different, so I get that. But this is the type of humor that I can do in binge form. So when you watch it, Vance now finished it as of last night, like literally at the crack of last night. But when you watch it when it's out, it's one per week, so you have to do the whole wait, hurry up and wait kind of thing. And but still, this is the kind that I could binge watch if it was like Amazon or
Hulu.
Netflix, where it just drops all at once. So
No, it's on Hulu.
oh, it's not on Hulu. Oh, that's right, it is on Hulu, but it's
This
still
is a
weekly
Hulu
though.
production. Oh, I
Okay,
don't know.
but it's
I
still,
watched it all at once,
yeah,
so
yeah, I know, yeah. But when it comes out, you only get one each week, so you have to wait. But yeah, it's got a great cast. It's great character actors. So I love it. I love the premise because it deals with podcasting, which is what we do, and it's got a slight literary bent, and it's got a light showbiz bent, and it's got all these wacky creators that are involved, that evolve from a murder that happens in the building in season 1, and the murders keep coming and within the building, so stuff happens and comedy ensues. But this is definitely something that this is the type of American comedy that I do really like, because it's witty. It's the same thing for Mrs. Maisel. I love Mrs. Maisel, but in that one, you also get one a week when it comes out, so you have the big wait. But it's those kinds of comedies I like, where they're not. And I'm not saying that 911 isn't highbrow enough, but it's got a different slant. Its approach is different than Mrs. Maisel, which, by the way, Albert and I are doing wrote reactions to Mrs. Maisel, so that's something you might want to join our Patreon, because Albert is loving Mrs. Maisel so much. Our first episode is in the can. I'm editing it now, so soon it will be out, and we'll be starting down that path. So if you've not watched Mrs. Maisel, you might want to check it out. That's our shout out for this. I'm sorry, go in there. But anyways, back to Only Murders in the Building. What did you think, having just finished it mere hours ago?
Yes. Less than 12 hours ago, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
There were elements I really, really loved, and there were elements I absolutely abhorred. At first, I loved when they would have a celebrity playing themselves living in the building, and in season 1, it's Sting. And for an episode, he is the suspect, and Sting gets to play Sting. But there were ways that Sting
Well, a
presented
heightened
himself.
version of Sting.
Heightened version. But there were ways that Sting presented himself in the show that I don't know the real Sting's people would have been super pleased with. In the elevator, he claims to hate dogs. I've never seen that sort of behavior out of Sting in any other interview style whatsoever. So I'm
Well,
like, that
yeah.
may have been written in for the Sting character, but unfortunately, because it's Sting as himself, it's got some weird, like, crossover weirdness. And they did something similar with Amy Schumer in season 2. That said, my only other complaint, and I'm getting my complaints out of the way so I can then gush about it, was the way they handled removing Oscar from the story. Oscar ends up being a love interest at the end of season 1, but you don't see him in season 2. Selena Gomez's character immediately moves on to a new love, and the sort of offhand explanation is, oh, we're at a point where we're just waiting for the can we see other people text. That was really callous. Like, it was a really callous dismissal of Oscar's character. And I didn't care for the way it was handled. And the actor may have had other things to do, may not have been able to come back for season 2. I understand they had to write him out, but that made me not like Mabel as a character because that was so dismissive.
Well, I think Mabel's character is problematic anyways.
100%.
She's a unreliable narrator. She's
Especially
got secrets
season
of her
2 where
own.
you know, well, yeah, season 1 it's secrets, but season 2 it's memory gaps.
Right. And so she's a problematic character to begin with. I think that a lot of their drama is born out of her issues, which is also where the comedy arises, because you've got the two bumbling smart dimwits, as I call them, of Martin Short and Steve Martin's characters, and you've got their egos to deal with, and theirs are so out in left field compared to Mabel, that it's just, you've got this weird triangle, which is part of why it works.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Selena Gomez's character I see her as the crux from where all problems arise in some way.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the only drawback I had for season 2 is I'm on the fence about Cara Delevingne.
I know, me too.
I don't remember. Yeah,
I know, me too.
Yeah, she's kind of a one-trick pony. I've not seen any range in her performances and the things she has been in. She kind of just
everything she
shows
does
up
is
and says,
dangerous sexuality is
"Yeah,"
her trope.
and yeah, she just reads the lines on the page. So I think she's more behaving than she's acting. I mean, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so, while I like the queer slant that it takes on in season 2, and you kind of get hints that Mabel is not so straight and narrow, even in season 1, you get these hints that there's something very suspicious about her character, and she's deeply enmeshed in how these murders happen. And as you say, the issue with them is in season 2, she has memory gaps, can't remember things. In season 1, she's hiding stuff, and so you get these problematic situations. The other thing that always seems kind of weird to me is the fact that she's still in that apartment, and they never really resolved how she's still staying there when she got discovered and one of the murders happens there. So it's like,
I mean, it's established that it's her aunt's apartment, and she used to spend summers there. That was established early on, and she's staying there to renovate it for her aunt. But that's like 2 years of renovation. Where is her aunt living?
And the only renovation was the wall mural.
Until the very end. At the very end of season 2, the renovation was completed. There was that time jump. But yeah, if you take into consideration the time jump, that was 3 years of renovation. Where the hell was her aunt living?
I know, exactly. And New York's not cheap. And then you see her family life, like outside of it, and it's in one of the boroughs, and you're like,
and her aunt's not living there.
Why yeah. So and how does this aunt pay for that and not be? So
yeah.
There's that whole.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. But I mean, part of it is just the obtuseness of the angle of the story, that you it's kind of like how I feel about Doctor Who. You have to suspend disbelief in some areas so wide, but if you do, you get a payoff in the characters that are presented.
Yeah, no, this whole series leans heavily into the mystique of absurd New York.
Yes.
Like, as
Yeah.
long as you are willing to accept the legend that all of New York is absurd, then this works.
Yeah. It's a mecca of really odd fucking people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in a way, it's kind of like a Steve Martin flavor of a Woody Allen film, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
Do you know?
100%.
So, yeah. So that's what I like, and I like the fact that it's the whole you look at a city. Oh, eyelash on my tongue. Weird. Um, you look at the city as this megapolis of weirdness that goes on and probably shouldn't work, but something magically happens in that city that they don't kill each other en masse in one big shootout or something. But so it's kind of that kind of thing, and if there's a vibe there that keeps everything kind of working.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I love the fact that you got Jane Lynch, who plays an arch enemy, and then you've got Nathan Lane, these queer actors playing these roles that are the arch nemesis of what's going on. Then Kara comes in season 2, and she contributes to it. So you got all these queer actors that
So
are
Jane and
causing.
Nathan's characters,
Yeah,
I coined a term for them. They're the arch frenemies.
I'm there with you on that. That's totally it. All right. So, and enough about that. I mean, unless you got something else to add, you want to get to our
Mm-mm.
numbers?
No, we can totally get
Okay.
to our numbers.
Okay. You go with yours first.
So production, I gave it a 4. Overall, really damn good. On occasion, they tried to be all podcasty with the television presentation, especially at the start of episodes. So, like, each episode would be kind of flavored from a different person's perspective in the crime being committed. And on occasion, I just didn't feel it worked. I understand what they were doing with it. It absolutely fit the format that they were trying to emulate. I just didn't love it. So 4 for that. Script screenplay, also a 4. I thought it was very good, but there were problems and a couple holes, and a couple solutions felt very Agatha Christie. Like, oh, here's this thing we haven't mentioned before. Whoop, here it is.
Yeah.
Sound lighting score, 5. That was on point. Art direction costuming, 5. Also on point. And actually, you have to pay attention because sometimes the clothing is the giveaway. Casting 5, everybody was perfectly cast for their roles, and they leaned into them and had fun with them. And I suspect a lot of
Yeah.
these cast members, especially season 2, came asking for a role. I would not be surprised if some of these people said, I want to be in this show.
Yeah.
Directing, 4.5, I think, and I only knocked it down a bit because of the stuff I mentioned earlier. I think the director could have corrected for it, and it just didn't happen. Directors, plural, could have corrected for it, and it didn't happen. Queer themes presented, 4. We saw a bisexual relationship at the end of season 2. We actually see 2 men finally get together, and then of course there's some tension play and a teenager who's almost switching a gender pronoun but didn't. So it's all there, and it's all treated as very normal, which I loved. So my personal overall, 4.5.
Actually, it's for the first time. I think we're in total agreement. Mine is exactly the same thing, oddly enough, and for many of the reasons that you state, because it is an incredibly good show. It is also season 3 is coming up, so we will have a
Yep.
new season. Which is really fascinating because this is one of the murders that doesn't happen in the building, so we don't know
No.
where the connection is wholly to the building. So I'm sure we're going to get that reveal, or maybe we won't. So that's the thing with Only Murders. Sometimes they answer the question, and sometimes they completely don't.
Uh huh.
So
Uh huh.
that's also part of the reason of why you tune in. And I kind of like that it's got this long-standing thing with Tina Fey's character
I
of
know.
like this antagonistic true crime kind of podcasts that are warring it out, which is really funny. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just another bizarre thing from New York.
Mm-hmm.
Creatives going at each other for all the same kind of genre track and stuff. So yeah. That's another thing that I really like. But yeah, my numbers actually oddly match yours. I come up with the same exact final number too. So I think
Nice.
that it's a worthy show. Definitely, I want to see how season 3 pans out because, like I said, it's the first murder that's not in the building. So we got to find out how that ties in to the title. And
Well,
it may or may not. I
yeah,
don't know. Maybe they're going to do a track.
yeah, it may not tie into the title, but this isn't too big of a spoiler. It happens at a theater where Martin Short's character got a directing gig, so it is still
Right.
tied to the characters.
Right.
It's just not in the
Just
building.
in the building. Yeah, which is in the title. And can I say, I really love the credit sequences. I
Yes.
mean, they're so refreshing. So refreshing to have a sequence that's set up that is really, really engaging and gives you that
Uh-huh.
true crime feel.
True crime feel, but
And yet,
it also highlights the episode. Really, each episode's opening and closing credits are specific to that episode within the sort of framework of the entire show.
right.
Worth paying
So it
close
allows the
attention to
building,
those two.
right. Your camera just died.
Oh, not on my end.
Well, it is on mine.
I'm
I'm
still
assuming
recording
you're
and I
still
can still see
recording.
me. Should
So
we? Mhm.
yeah, I'm just worried that
Can you hear
maybe
me?
it's just a broadcast thing. Yeah, let's just finish.
Do you want to stop and restart it? Okay. Or we could stop and restart it.
Yeah, let's. Well, let me just finish this and then we'll stop it and then we'll do a separate one for what are we on about. Okay.
Okay. Hmm.
All right. So, unsidebar. So, I think that, the character of the building, it lends to that mystique. It's a worthy show for people to dive into. I think, as you've now discovered, you can binge it. They're only half-hour episodes, so it's not like they're full 1 hour.
Half hour to 50 minutes.
Um,
They're like, there's this weird. Hulu
yeah,
wasn't
there's this
required
weird
to stick with.
swing.
Yeah, Hulu wasn't required to stick to the big three's commercial slots, so
Yeah,
they were like,
41
"This is how
minutes or
long this
whatever.
episode
Yeah,
is. This is how long that
yeah,
episode is."
yeah. True, true. So we highly recommend it. Check it out. I think at some point I might do a reaction with Albert, but we've got Mrs. Maisel to get through and Sensate, so don't know if we're going to take on a third one in rotation. But we are trying to rotate the TV series because some people don't like sci-fi or they would prefer a comedy or something. So we're trying to give different flavors as we dive into these reactions on TV series. So we will be rotating them, but we will be sticking to our series. But at some point, I would like Albert to react to these because I think it might be kind of fun to do a mystery series with him. So there's that. All right. How about what are we on about? So, what are you on about?
My week was chaos. My week was chaos. So I've got things that are completely unrelated. To dovetail on something I just said during the review about people wanting to be in shows, the most recent episode of The Mandalorian has Jack Black and Lizzo guest appearing. I have to suspect they both kind of went to the producers and were like, "Hey, I want to be in this
Begged.
somehow."
Please,
It
please, please,
it it was one kind of hilarious. It did take me out a little bit, but mostly it was just one of those, my little actor brain was like, they had to have asked to be there for that somehow.
please.
But it was cool. It was fun. It was a good episode. Also,
And it's
Wisconsin
not
has
unprecedented either
no, not at all.
because Bill Burr did
Uh,
it the season before. So
yeah. Wisconsin finally had some nice weather, so I leashed up my dog who doesn't have aggression issues and went out for a nice long walk and saw my first flowers poking through the brown leaves from last year. So I will send Baz that picture so he can share it for the YouTube. But it finally feels like spring might be coming into my life, and that's a good thing because what I'm on about for all of you listeners and watchers is get outside and just enjoy the world. Put your phone away, slide it into a pocket. It doesn't have to be far away, but take a deep breath because we've been through some crap. The third thing ties into that crap, though. I am so happy that so many people are pointing out the absurdity and the two-facedness of both the anti-trans and the anti-drag queen laws. And specifically hearkening to an Easter post I saw where the Jesus is sitting on a rock talking to children, and of course the caption is, "Oh look, a man in a dress telling stories to children." How much more blatantly two-faced can we be? Come on, lawmakers. So anyway, that's what I'm on about this week. What about you?
I'm on about the GOP's complete lack of shame in their fight for autocracy. Um, if you're a conservative at this point, for me, you need to come with receipts of why being a conservative in the GOP is still a viable thing, because I'm not seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I also think what happened in Tennessee was completely outrageous. It was a pure power grab. It was a pure theater, political theater stunt that will have no bearing whatsoever on the makeup of it, because both are, one black gentleman was, I think it was Johnson, who was restored, or was it the other one? I can't remember. I'll put it up here.
I don't remember.
Has already been restored as an interim replacement for his own seat that he's going to run for again. And he was voted in unanimously by the Nashville City Council. So, it's like, come on, what are you doing? You're not achieving anything other than red meat for the bonehead idiots that are in fucking trailer parks who probably don't always vote either. So I don't know, it's along the same lines of the people who show up for the drag shows and all of the angry parents that go to school board meetings, and then you find out, oh, you don't actually have a kid in this school, do you?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of bullshit. Performative politics I'm over it. I am so over it. And I'm sorry, but conservatives and GOP people out there, you don't get to have the moral ground anymore. Ever. Again.
Yep.
Because you have no morality. And, I watch a lot of YouTubes and people discussing these things, both from I see the ones from the right, and I see the ones from the left, and I see the ones from the left criticizing the right. So I see all these thumbnails and the shame of what they have no shame. None. Nope. Stop putting it in your thumbnails to get click-throughs, because it's just not real. It's not a thing. It's just not a thing. So I'm on about trying to come with truth and justice and the American way. No, I'm not Superman. But, I'm trying to come at it with no, 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 no. And somebody needs to take Marsha Blackburn's drunk ass and get her out of the fucking Senate. That bitch has nothing good to contribute to that body. How she keeps getting voted in is beyond me. I don't think she knows where she is half the time. Anyways, the second thing I'm on about is actually a good thing. A very, very good thing. Is Blue Beetle's new trailer dropped, and I am here for it. It's answers the ever present question of what would happen if a Latino became a superhero. Answer: you bring your family along with you. I still want to see. They haven't shown it in any trailer that I've seen or any kind of pre-scenes, but I still want the abuela to take off her chancleta and hold it at the Blue Beetle and go, "Don't try me," because every Latino is going to be looking for that moment. Don't try me. Come on, see what happens. So anyways, I'm on about the Blue Beetle. Can't wait for it. I love it that it's coming out in my birthday month, so my family's definitely going to go see it. Oh, and I can pull this up. I have
Aw, that's Beetle. Awesome. That's awesome.
And for those who don't know what I'm doing, I'm holding up a pop figure of the Blue Beetle itself, and I really love him. He's cute. So I had to go buy him. So there's that. But yeah, so I'm on about the Blue Beetle. Can't wait to see it. And all the his last name's Rodriguez, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jaime Rodriguez. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm here for the Rodriguez's. You know, I think they're going to be like the Mexican Weasleys. So it's going to be
Probably.
Fun. Can't wait. Yeah. Can't wait. It's going to be fun. It still gives me pause for thought on the DCU now. I still don't know what James Gunn is up to. It's not gelling for me. Things I'm seeing, I'm just like, you're being so fucking divisive. How are you better than Walter Hamada? How?
Mm-hmm.
You need to come with receipts and explain it to me, because I'm not he's beginning to act like Elon Musk of DC.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's just doing these random tweets. It's like, fucker, put your goddamn phone down and just get to business. We don't have time for you to be cute.
Somebody
Just
called
stop.
that seagull management. The manager drops in, makes a mess, shits and everything, and leaves.
I'm here for it. I don't see how this is a good thing. I really don't. And I'm not a huge fan of his storytelling, you know, way of telling stories. I've yet to watch anything that he's done that I'll go, oh yeah, I'll watch that again. The same with Guardians of the Galaxy. I watched them once. I have no desire to go back and watch them again. There's nothing there for me to rewatch and get enjoyment out of it. It was fun. Yeah, okay, great. I like Groot. Fine, you know, but I'm not. It's not going to drive me back to the story again. You know, I just, and then you get people like, you know, Dave Bautista, who goes, no, I don't want to work with him. What's going on there? Because Dave seems to be a pretty amicable guy. What's going on there?
Yeah.
What's happened?
There's a story.
So, yeah, there is. There's something there. And so I don't know that David Zaslav has made a great choice. That's all I'm saying. So jury's still out. And then still what they did to Henry Cavill, I will never forgive them for.
No.
That was
so speaking of
complete
jury,
ass movie. Ass move.
Yes. Speaking of jury, who won our week?
Okay. So Vance and I are sharing the ultimate one, but I have an honorable mention that I do want to bring out, and I'm going to share this. There is a thing going on Grindr. Now, I don't have Grindr for obvious reasons. I'm married, happily married to my husband. But evidently, there's this thing happening on Grindr, and I'm going to read this. This is from Queerty, the gay news source. It says, when people post screenshots of Grindr message on social media, it's usually for one of two reasons. The sender was either creepy or rude AF. But on Easter Sunday, one visible Twitter gay shared a heartwarming string of messages he received from an older man on the Hookup app. The man wasn't looking to smash, but rather just imparting some wisdom. It's one of the most pleasant greetings anybody could ever expect from when they logged into the vaunted grid. So I'm going to read just the first two opening messages that have been screenshot, but evidently they're all up on Twitter. Well, who knows how long Elon will let it sit there, because not the most friendly of allies. But and one of them just shows the screenshot, and I'll put it up here. Matt, who is posting it, saying, I am not crying from a Grindr message. So here's what the message opens with. Let me say in advance, I'm not flirting with you, or at least not in the way one might think. I'm old enough to be your grandfather. But your picture reminds me of when I was young and living in South Los Angeles. I had a Jeep with no doors, no roof, and I would drive around with just sneakers and short shorts. Okay, yeah, I was hustling my little ass a little bit, LOL. And so it opens a series of this long conversation that he has with this younger guy, and people are having it. They just love it. They said, there are many wonderful things here, but let's start with the man's earnestness. He's clearly using Grindr in a way to connect with other members of the community, which is refreshing to see. His anecdote about being a young gay and topless Jeep driving around carefree in Southern California is downright majestic, if not poetic. It would be the perfect opening scene to any gay biopic. With the gay hookup scene now firmly online, there's something nostalgic about the idea of bopping around and looking to cruise free of judgment or guilt. The activity invites a youthful wonder that just can't be replicated by sitting alone on the couch and scrolling through endless digital avatars. That leads us to the man's final piece of wisdom: enjoy life, it goes far too quickly. We live in an age of constant FOMO. This can be especially true in the summer months, when it seems like everyone in your feed is hopping between lavish estates on Fire Island and Provincetown while you're stuck at home working. But that's not real life. There's a tremendous joy that comes with being LGBTQ today, from gathering with friends to watching Drag Race on Friday nights to dancing freely amongst a sea of euphoric strangers. We would all benefit from appreciating the freedom that comes with being young, gay, and in 2023, and hearing more from this wise grinder man, whose identity is appropriately shrouded in complete obscurity. And there are people that have responded to this guy's posting of this thing, and it says, one of them says, "Get lunch with that man and let him tell you his stories. No way you will regret it." Another one responded saying, "This man is an actual king." And somebody else responded, "Who knew Grinder could be so wholesome?" And, queer elders always make me cry. So I just thought it was lovely to see that, because unfortunately our society is very ageist. And I think a lot of gay men would benefit from hearing from we older cats in the neighborhood, as I like to say, who've been around the block several times, and we know the ins and outs. We've seen the pain. We know of each other's struggles, in ways that I think the queer youth could really benefit from. And I think that it's lovely when they recognize it and they post it and they put some good in the world, saying, there is a reason why this age barrier has to come down. And I want to mention another podcast that happens on YouTube with Joel Wood from Those Two Brits. He and his husband, Keegan Hurst, who is the gay rugby player that came out, they started a podcast called Healthy Happy Homo, or Happy Healthy Homo, one or the other.
Happy Healthy.
And yeah, and they've had several discussions about this. And Joel commented that, there was a party he went to where there was a bunch of older gays and then there was a bunch of younger gays, and they were all at this party, and yet they all congregated to their own age groups, as if there was an unwritten rule that said you can't mix. And he said he kind of goes into this kind of hyper sensitive, oh my God, people are not enjoying themselves because they're not melding and and exploring each other's conversations and stuff. And I think he's right. I think that and then he went over and hung out with the older gays and found out he had such a good time, made new friends, and that's one of the things I think can really help. I think these younger gay boys and girls and theys could benefit greatly from those who have been there before. And I think it's a resource that we need to have more often. I mean, a lot of LGBT centers out there maybe start creating, these support groups where young queers who've either been displaced, thrown out of their home, need to find community, need to found family. And I think that, we have tons of movies out there that explore this subject trope, of older queers imparting younger gays knowledge and wisdom from the community and where things are. And I think that that's only a benefit. I don't see how that could be a terrible thing. And this gentleman's interchange with this young queer boy is a perfect example of that, of just reaching out and saying, "Hey, I see you, I see me in you," and it's a good thing that we're all still here. So that's who my honorable mention of the week is. The shared who won the week is both Vance and I can breathe now, because the election of the year has happened. And Vance's state stepped up in a big way and said, no, we're not putting up with this. No, we're not going to go there. No, we are not going to play this game with people's lives and their health. And just no. And we are talking about the election of Judge Prasewicz, who has now been voted overwhelmingly by double-digit percentage points and it just shows the GOP for what it is, because the guy couldn't concede. All he did was victim blame and me, and cry, and stop. You guys all sound like 4-year-olds in a playground, and somebody
But
threw sand in your face.
yes, so to actually give you the rest of the details, Wisconsin's state Supreme Court has now flipped over to the liberal side for the first time in 15 years.
That's huge.
It is huge because it's a sliver of hope.
Well, yeah, and because the the districts are so gerrymandered in Wisconsin
Mm-hmm.
that the only way they have a shot at evening the whole political layout, to actually reflect what the state is on about, um, is contingent upon this happening. Now, the only thing that gives me pause is that they were trying to figure out a way to oust her before she can. So,
They're
what's the
trying.
story there? Have you heard any movement on that?
No, everybody assumes it's going to be a Trump style hold up the election by demanding a recount while they go look for something else. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, they don't have a winning ticket. They know they don't. And fuck, Ann Coulter, Holly Horseface, came out and just said, you people need to stop with this bullshit because we're losing massively and no one's learning from this. I'm sorry, when someone like her comes out and calls a spade, better fucking wake up and pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And 90% of the good conservative Republicans that are around out there have all left the party. They're all independents now because they can't stand the stench. I saw Michael Steele on MSNBC, and he said, I've been in this party since 1976. He goes, and I never thought it would get here. I never once thought we would blow the guardrails and go this far out into the ether. And it's true. It's just, you need more than one party. That is because single party rule is in itself a form of autocracy.
Yeah.
And so you need that conversation to happen. The problem is the other side has given up on good faith conversation and facts. So where do you go with that?
Yep.
Anyway,
all right, folks.
So that's who won our week.
We need to tie up this episode. Get outside, enjoy the world, enjoy the people in your life. They're in your life for a reason, and if you haven't kicked them out yet, then it's time to embrace them. Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you are a Patreon supporter, at the 1st of May, we are going to adjust our levels a bit so that we match other YouTube and Patreon style channels. So on the 1st of May, check your level, make sure you're where you want to be, make sure you're getting the rewards for supporting us that you want. We appreciate it. We love you. We're just trying to, like I said, make it so that the numbers you're looking at are numbers you would expect. How about that? All right. Tune in next week for your queer media fix.
Bye-bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. Bum's Rush and Melody, dear.